Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Tamisha, the Codapreneur. And on today's video, I want to be completely honest with you guys, fully transparent, and really give you, I should say, the nitty-gritty of being a occupational therapy practitioner in 2024, or I should just say in the real world. All right. So if you're like, Tamisha, please be honest with us. I suggest you continue to watch this video. All right, guys. Well, thank you again for tuning into my channel. So like I said, we are going to keep it 100% on today's video. So before I go into what you really want to think about when you're coming into this profession, I want to really tell you what is the kind of personality traits that you should have when you are looking to work in this profession. Okay. So I'm going to give you a couple. So the first thing is you need to have a heart of compassion. Okay. You need to be compassionate. You need to care about people. If you know that you are, let's say, introvert and you don't really want to talk to people, you don't want to be around people, then being in the occupational therapy field might not be for you. Next thing is you want to have good communication skills. In this profession, you need to talk. So if you do not like to talk, this might not be the profession for you. The third thing is you need to be creative or just have a sense of innovation. Sometimes you are going to be in situations where everything is not going to be perfect. You might not have good high budget in some facilities, and you might not have the resources you need to provide the best quality of service for your client or your patient. So you really need to be creative to really help them obtain their goals while also making it interesting and not boring. Also bringing life to the activity, so it's not just flat or repetitive, or it's something that the patient or client continues to do day in and day out, right? So you really want to have a sense of creativity. Number four, you really need to have good problem solving and critical thinking skills. Now, of course, this is something that you can build up over time. You want to have the mindset that I need to be able to think quickly on my feet. I need to be able to solve problems when they arrive. And you don't want to get timid when challenges arise, because in this profession, you are going to be challenged and you need to be able to have thick enough skin to be able to stand against it, right? Another thing in this profession is you need to know that it's very important to be professional and uphold ethics. All right. That is why we have our code of conduct. This is why we have our ethics, because that is a big part of being in this profession, right? You need to be honest, right? You need to be professional. Sometimes, and I'm beyond with you guys, I've had patients get upset and they start cursing at me. I've even had one patient curse me out. As much as I wanted to curse him back out too, do you think I could do that? No. So you have to know that when people are in pain, or if someone had a TBI, they are not going to be in their right mind. If someone is having a behavioral issue, maybe you're working with adolescents or you're working with young children, behavioral issues are going to arise. So you got to ask yourself, how am I willing to deal with this? Okay. So being ethical, of course, and being professional is going to be a big component in this profession. No, you have to be flexible. Like I said, it's not a cookie cutter job. You're not going to walk into work and then everything is going to be set out for you and it's going to be, nicely in order. Things are going to get crazy at times, right? You might walk in with a caseload of 8 patients, by the end of the day, you've seen 12, right? Because sometimes people might fall off, or you might need to see more people. Some people might have doctor's appointments. So now you're trying to rearrange your schedule around doctor's appointment and dialysis appointments, right? Or some people might refuse you. And now you have to figure out who else can you see. And it's just your days can be pulled left and right. So you need to be prepared and welcome being flexible. And then the last thing is you are going to need to understand that being in this profession, you're going to need to commit to long-term learning. Yes, this is not the kind of career where you graduate and that's it. You're done. As much as most of us probably wish that's the case, it's not. You have to continue your education. So that means you're going to be continuing with your continual education credits. I know in the state of New Jersey where I am, we don't actually need that. But for our MBCOT certification, we do need what they called, I believe, the PDUs. Fancy word to say you still need to show that you're keeping up with some form of education. All right. So this is pretty much what I'm saying that qualifies you to be really good in this profession with your personality, right? Now let's go into what I want to tell you you should be aware of. And I am speaking from the point of someone that works in a skilled nursing facility. All right. So here it is. Number one, you are going to face heavy workload and time constraints. All right. So you are going to need to understand that in this profession, especially if you're going into skilled nursing facility, like I said, that's my niche. I can't really speak too much on pediatrics. I mean, I've dabbled with pediatrics. They too tend to have heavy caseloads at times. I can't speak too much about the hospitals. Again, I haven't worked in hospitals, but from what I've seen from hospitals, that is very busy for the OTs, okay? To the point where sometimes they don't get to see everyone that they're supposed to see. So just know that you are going to be challenged when it comes to seeing your patients within a particular time frame. And that can range anywhere from 10 patients all the way to 15 in one day, okay? The next thing is you are going to have administrative burdens. Now, I hate to call it a burden, but that's what it feels like when you have, and from the OTs, when the OTs have an evaluation, they have a daily progress notes, they have their care plans, they have re-evaluations, and they have discharges, and they're also trying to supervise their OTs and look over whatever the progress notes that the OTs did. So you can see you have all this administrative work. And on top of that, I almost forgot to mention is that during the evaluations, a lot of times the OTs will probably do some level or some kind of test, okay, that they have to write up, standardized test. Now, on the COTA perspective, we might not have as much paperwork as the OTs, but we still have to do our daily notes. We still will have to do our progress notes, and some OTs will require you to contribute with your evaluations. Not a lot, but that can happen where they're asking you to contribute in their evaluations. And definitely contribute with discharge. Some places the coders are doing the discharge and then the OTs are actually looking it over and signing off on it. So it can be a lot. So just keep that in mind. That is something that you need to be aware of. The next thing is you might need to speak to insurance companies to justify your care. All right. And I know it can be scary because you're like, oh no, they're dissecting my documentation, right? And it's going to happen. I've had my documentation questioned before, and I was like, okay, no problem. And I got on the phone and I had a conversation with the insurance company in order to get the necessary approval for my patients. Now that can come up. It's not happening as much as I feel like it was happening before because of the changes with the billing systems, but it is something that you should be prepared for. And this is why it's important to also be good with your documentation. Now, the other thing is, you might feel like it's just going to be you and your client. And as lovely as that might be or seem, that is really not the case. You are going to be working with your client. You are going to be working with their families or caregivers, right? You are going to be working with multiple people. All right. You want to keep in mind that you're probably going to be working alongside social worker as well. You're going to be alongside nursing. You have your supervisors, then you might have the physical therapist, and then you have the speech therapist. I've worked with so many people for one patient that you need to be able to manage collaboration. So if you're not a person that is a team player, or you don't care to have all these people in your work, then this profession might not be for you. But if you're fine with being a team player and you welcome working with other people, then great. Now, this is something big that tends to happen a lot. Burnout, right? Burnout is real, guys. This profession does have a very high burnout rate. So you need to learn how to separate work and your home life, okay? Because it can be very draining. I know for me, I will come home and I would be dead tired and I would just go to sleep. So that can be very challenging, especially if you have a family and you have small children. So keep that in mind on the setting that you go into, because the last thing you want is to experience very high burnout. And if you are concerned about burnout, go ahead and check my video here where I talk about how to relieve burnout. And the last thing I want to mention in this profession is at times, you're going to need to be able to advocate for your patients, right? You might need to fight for your patients. Things might happen where you might have to fight nursing to say, or maybe with the doctors and say, they need this service. They need occupational therapy. A lot of times, people even or patients will confuse occupational therapy with physical therapy, and they just don't understand what's the importance of occupational therapy. And you have to advocate for the profession, and at times you have to advocate for your patients. So if you are someone that say that's fine with me, then you will be perfectly fine. But if you are going to be very uncomfortable with stepping in and having to speak up and use your voice in times like that, this profession might not be for you. So I hope that this wasn't too dead blunt, but I want you guys to be aware of this, because for me, I love occupational therapy, but I hated the politics. All right. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. And I love collaborating. I love working with my patients, all of that. Perfect. Great. I love the creativity part of it. I loved when fieldwork students will come in, like all of that, right? Because I'm a teacher at heart. I love that. But I just hated the workload because I felt like it pulled away from quality of care. I hated when I had management that was kind of just hovering, right? Or even supervisors that was just hovering. Um, and these things really affected me to the point where I am actually very satisfied with no longer doing in-person care. I don't work in the occupational therapy profession currently. And I'm so happy with that because I can still provide my knowledge and support my students in my mentorship program, which is Study with a COTA, which is a course that I have, and I support students with passing their MBCOT exam. So if you are, let's say, a student and you're studying for your exam, definitely go ahead and check out Study with a COTA course. It's in the description below. And if you just want to be in a group and have accountability, go ahead and sign up for my free Facebook group. The link is also in the description below for you to join. I hope that this video was helpful. If you're loving my content, go ahead, like, share, and don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, guys, bye-bye.